So welcome everyone to our K-6/P-6 Canvas user group this afternoon. We've got some great topics that actually look very similar to the K-12 user group that we had a couple of weeks ago. But the topics were chosen by popular demand. So this is the agenda for today. The big one right at the very top is rolling over courses for the new year. What evaluation process do you follow? So not necessarily the technical process of just moving content, but actually how do you evaluate the actual content that's in those courses to get them rolled over and up to date and fresh for the new year. Now, if you are attending, we do encourage everyone to have their video on because this is, if we were in person, we'd like to see everyone's faces. So we like to emulate that with our user groups as well. And we'd like to welcome everyone who is here this afternoon. But just to kick us off with the first topic on the agenda, rolling over courses for the new year, what evaluation process do you follow? So is there anyone who'd like to start with what they do at their school?
I'm happy to get the ball rolling for you, Paul.
No worries, I'll stop sharing so that we can see your lovely face.
Okay. You must have a special effect or something like that going on. Yeah, so basically this particular topic is all I'm doing at the moment across Parramatta, out here at Caroline Chisholm today, and that's exactly what we're doing. So depending on what stage of their course development that they're actually in, so Caroline Chisholm very much at the beginning, so their courses have got very little content, versus our other schools like Santa Sophia, who have courses that are quite mature and 3 years old, and they're looking to improve. So in terms of evaluating the courses, I think probably one of the first things that is noticed by our schools is the overuse of announcements. And when I say that overuse of announcements, I'm talking about the content within the announcements. And they probably don't realize that when they roll over their content and they untick announcements, that they're going to lose a lot of content there. So the first step in the evaluation process is what's contained in these announcements that is going to be of value. So that's usually number one. Number two is we don't want to change our course because it's live and we haven't finished the year and we still want to be ready for next year. So the ability to actually just copy your course and actually play with it and massage it and get those resources where they want is certainly a learning for a number of schools before they actually turn it into the actual course for next year. The second thing that the evaluation process looks at is the mark books, and usually the overwhelming mass of unmarked submissions by students, and that is definitely part of the evaluation process on how you automate feedback to students on their submissions and how you make teacher marking simple. And one of the most popular versions is marked discussions. So a discussion that's contributed to by the student, but it's simply marked and you can see that student's actually contributed. And things like not marked and no submission, all of those sorts of things. So really the learning activities is the second big one. And the last one usually has something to do with our courses are so big now and our modules are so big, we don't want our students trawling through modules. So with the blessing of having Design Plus at our disposal, we've been creating module lists and individual module pages to allow for easy access and navigation for our students. But usually they're the three big ones. And now I'm going to shut up and I'll find a little flow chart that I created to inform learning activities. So if you want to use it, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. For those who don't know, Design Plus is a tool provided by a company called City Labs. It's a third-party vendor that helps you to create templated designs, or it does lots of things, but a lot of people use it for creating templated templated designs amongst their courses for creating blocks of content and things like that is consistent from one course to another. So yeah, that can be really, really handy to be able to do that. And while David's trying to find that flowchart, is there anyone else who wants to jump in and talk about how they assess their evaluate their courses for rollover into the new year?
I might just say a few things. So I'm actually at a K-12 school down here in Barrel, and so I'm looking at it more as across not just our junior school but our secondary school. We've got a lot of Canvas courses that don't really sit in the academic side. So we've got a lot of pastoral courses that have been made throughout the years. And so I'm new to this role as well. So what I've done a couple of weeks ago is I got all of the 2022 courses, put them in an Excel document, and I've sent it to all of the members of staff because I don't have the time to see really what's actually being used, what's kind of been created and just been rolled over every year. So I'm just doing a bit of an audit to work out really, well, what courses are we actually using? What are the academic ones that we know we're going to keep? And what are these pastoral ones? For example, we've got house courses that are used by some houses. Other houses are not using them. We've got some for write a book in a day and a whole bunch of different events. So it's really working out what we're going to keep for next year. I've asked them to just fill out my little form of what we want to keep, and then hopefully I'll get all of the submissions I need, and then I'll just have a, fingers crossed, pretty simple rollover for next year.
Awesome. Yeah, so you kind of had a bit of a logical process for teachers to kind of keep you up to speed, so that the onus is on them to make sure that, and you're just following up to make sure that they get back to you essentially.
Yeah, and the way it's been organized in the past, we've got different terms. So you've got your year 12 2023, which started this term. We've got the 2022 K-10 course, and now we've the way that our secondary school works, certain like geography in the year 7 to 10, they do it by semester. So now I've got Canvas courses that are essentially copied, but they're named, semester 1 geography, year 7, semester 2. So we're just working out, what we're still using, what I just can flick across for next year. Our K-6, they're by stages at the moment, but we're going to break that up by year level next year.
Okay, right. So the courses are by stage, the Canvas courses, or
that's right. So we've got a stage 3 course, and then from there the modules are it's a bit yucky, so we're really going to spread that out next year. Not exactly sure, that's going to be a holiday job, but we're going to work on sorting that out.
Yeah. Awesome. Carolyn, do you have anything you want to, or Joanne?
Yeah. So the process that we use in primary, we're gradually moving over from the process that we use in our secondary, with our secondary courses. So we've got, we've got a developmental tool, basically a checklist, a rubric for teachers around when they're designing courses in Canvas, the things that they need to consider around a design aspect, but also our pedagogical approach to how we approach teaching and learning. So teachers have always got that as they're building out courses, but of course as they build out different topic areas from courses, they also do an evaluation using that tool. And we have they do a self-evaluation, they submit that. We then also pull together moderation panels as well to do moderations of particular units of work within courses as well, to give the course writers feedback as well. So we have quite a formal process that we're using in secondary, and we'll start to sort of move that down to primary as well. As part of that process, teachers are also asked to seek feedback from their students on their courses as well. So what we do is throughout the year, we do the same sort of thing as David's talking about. We have course shells for the next academic year so that teachers and course writers can be building that based on the evaluation of different units as they go through the year. But we also give them the first half of term 4, we're really fortunate. We have professional learning that happens every hour for our teachers once a week, and we take the first part of term 4 for them to look at the moderation feedback, their own self-evaluation and the student feedback, and use all of that to review the courses ahead of the next academic year. So that's the process we've got happening in secondary, and as I said, we're starting to move that process to the primary as well.
Okay, I like it that you know, it's a formal kind of process, and you've got you know, it's very specific, so teachers know exactly, it's clear to them exactly what the expectations are.
Yeah, and we're also starting to look now how we can use Ready Go, which is another City Lab tool, to automate that process and build it within the Canvas course, so that it contains it all within the Canvas course as well, that process.
A lot of plugging for City Labs today. I must say, you know, they've got some fantastic tools. But yeah, it sounds like what you're doing with the spreadsheet as well is very similar to what ReadyGo kind of does, except it's external rather than inside of Canvas. Yeah, that's great. Anyone else want to share, Joanne? Or I'm not sure, we've got Meeting Room who's joined us.
Hello, formerly known as Chris Maguire from Santa Sophia.
Okay.
G'day, Paul.
G'day, Chris. Welcome. So we're talking about, yeah, what sort of evaluation process you might go through for rolling over courses for the new year. And it's okay if you don't have a process or anything like that. That's why we're getting together and getting ideas from each other. But yeah, Chris or Joanne, if you've got anything that you want to share on that front, then feel free to jump in.
We have a curriculum team that produces all of the content. I'm in primary, so I cater 6, and we have it live in a blueprint, but we have a master for each grade, in each term, and we are continually updating the master, which will be going to the blueprint for the following year. So students are in, they have a derivative of the blueprint for term 4. 2022, but we already have that in a master, and we're already working on that for 2023. Right. And so we take feedback and we action feedback as it comes in from teachers or students. And each grade has a tile for each KLA, although F2 looks a bit different. We put it all in the one blueprint, and they have the one cover page where they access different KLAs from.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like you sync the blueprint at the beginning of the academic period, and then it sounds like you're probably not syncing it subsequently to that, just waiting for the new year to then sync it across to the new courses. Is that right?
It's a continual sync. So
right.
If there's an update that's required in a course for whatever reason, and it's made within the term, then that is synced straight out. Whereas the development for the future term, that sits in a master, and we create that. The master then goes into the blueprint, and then so there's 2 lines of development. There is the on-demand feed for the courses, or future planning.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, I didn't pick up on that. So that's really cool. So you've got that future development for kind of more wholesale changes, and then little updates for stuff that needs to be changed to the live course just happens in the blueprint. So do you just then create a new blueprint for the new academic year, or do you bring that across from the master into the same blueprint and just disconnect the old courses when you roll over?
Sure. So our IT department have worked out for a number of reasons. We take the existing blueprint and break that into the 4-term masters. And then for the following year, there will be a new blueprint created. And so 2023 blueprint will have term 1 courses in about 3 weeks' time. All of term 1 will be in there, each KLA, each grade. And then that is live. Teachers can see it, and students can't until the teachers publish it for their students. And so then we will be operating on fixing anything that's in the blueprint live on demand. We are then fixing term 2, 3, 4 in the master, and then each term that will go into the blueprint. But we're actually dropping into a development where we're developing large pedagogy or content or image changes a year ahead. So next term, we're going to trial responding to the live blueprint, fixing the following term, but also filming content for term 1, 2024.
Awesome. That's really cool. Chris, I saw you on mute.
Yeah, I was just going to add, we're doing, we're not going down the blueprint route. Dave Shield works in our system, so he knows exactly what's happening, but we've essentially created our 2023 course shells based on our SIS data that, you know, and what we're offering. Our e-learning leader, Christine, has done a pretty awesome job in that this is, I guess, a big milestone for our college. We're relatively new. There was an okay rollover process last year, but we're just kind of refining that. So I heard Carolyn mention the use of Ready Go as a way to kind of get that next level kind of visibility around the status of all of our 2023 courses and where each course is essentially up to. I've got a document here. Happy to share with the team. So with that setup of the rollover of our courses, there's a great guide that's sitting in each of the shells, and it kind of a step-by-step guide guides teachers through. Dave, I might just send that to you because I'm joining the call from the meeting room.
Oh, okay. Yep. Just while Chris is doing that, I heard through the pipeline, Chris, this isn't coming from you, just how awesome Christina's presentation was in terms of actually physically showing the large group of teachers exactly what that copying process. Do you want to just share with the community?
So I guess what strategy, I guess it's, you know, she used the concrete to help teachers get the abstract. As you start using this language, and I keep thinking of my mum when she was on staff, she needs to see some great concrete examples. So she had 2 boxes, 2022 course, 2023 course, had all of the elements of cards and just essentially modeled, okay, what do we, and just kind of took staff through the whole process. So just to kind of model the way that we're going to, you know, so each step, we prepare to move. What do we do in the prepare to move stage? What is the next? I'm just reading off of here. Prepare your new course. So I guess, you know, open the assignments, check the dates, like things of that nature, and just kind of modeled that first. And it got such a good response that we asked her to do it again with our, because we modeled this first with our instructional coaches, so our middle leadership team. And then we kind of roll it out to the rest of the staff, who it's a train-the-train model, so the middle leaders kind of support the various faculties with the rollout. But yeah, she's very, very talented. She's been thinking in this space for quite a while now, so it's great to see her flourish with some innovative approaches to how this would be rolled out. Hey, Carolyn, are you from One School Global?
Yes, I am.
Yes, okay. We met at King's.
That's right.
That induction work is also flying here as well. So thanks for sharing that, Carolyn. So valuable in getting our exec team to see, oh, here's a nice infographic to show that journey.
Yeah, no, great. Glad that was helpful.
Cheers.
Okay, so we're probably ready to talk about the next topic, which let me just share my screen again. By the way, everyone should have, if you want to share anything on screen, everyone should have share screen privileges in the meeting. So feel free to do so if you'd like to. Yeah, supporting new and or existing staff with Canvas. So, yeah, upskilling staff, PL, PD. Yeah, how do you handle that with getting them up to speed with Canvas? And not just for learning how to use Canvas either. I'm sure that there are many schools using Canvas for other staff training as well.
So from my end, what I find is really helpful is giving every teacher a sandbox, and also that Growing with Canvas course. It's a good starter place, but I think the best way for anyone to really learn Canvas, you just got to dive in there. But the sandbox is a really great starting point if you've got members of staff that have never touched Canvas before.
Yeah, we do the same, John. In fact, every year we also renew the sandbox courses because people have done so much work in them. They just want a fresh one. And if they do a really good job, we just rename it as the course that they actually want to start teaching, business studies or whatever. The Growing with Canvas course. So for those people out there in City Labs land, we actually have taken the Growing with Canvas course and completely overhauled it and with all the design tools things. So then people get excited about, oh, I want to put an accordion, etc., etc. So we use that too. We've also developed a much smaller, concise version of Growing with Canvas called Teaching with Canvas. And it's basically tailored for those people who have walked into an environment where they've never used Canvas before and they've been handed courses and they just they need to know how to drive it. And that's people find that of great value, especially we also run all our vet courses via Canvas right across the diocese as well. So you might have a teacher who's living in Google Classroom, the poor thing, and they have to adapt to using a vet course that we've supplied. So our Teaching with Canvas little 2-hour hybrid version works really, really well. We offer system-wide events whereby people from all over the diocese can come and actually learn growing from Canvas from go to way. And we also go out to schools for unique one-on-one presentations in that particular area. So obviously with COVID and sickness and whatever, schools can't get out. So we go to them, and I could probably do Growing with Canvas with my eyes shut now. And then in terms of those new to Canvas, and this is something that you're going to hear about this for the first time, Chris, is the fact that we're actually going to finish up the year and start the year with leaders that are new to Canvas. So basically, as a leader in a school with an LMS, what are the tools and the facilities that you've got to actually support learning and attend to your strategic plans? So that's the latest edition of our suite.
Nice. Have you based that off Be the Hero?
A little bit.
Okay.
It's mainly from my experience as a coordinator and leader of learning and curriculum and pastoral and so on and so forth, to say, how do you handle a student consultation? How do you handle a parent-student interview? How do you know whereabouts your courses are at? How do you run provisioning reports? So we've got a new school that's currently have gone live with all of their courses, and their principal called me to say, how did it look from my perspective? So I actually got on the call, and she's actually going to be one of the presenters in this course. It basically said, we thought we were all live across all our courses. However, there were still 14 that were unpublished, and I didn't know that, and I should know that. And this is how we can target support for those people who aren't quite where we need to be. So those sorts of things, those sort of live, real information type things.
Yeah, that's cool. And for those who are watching this later, so Growing with Canvas and Be the Hero. Growing with Canvas is about teaching and learning in Canvas, and building courses and delivering learning using Canvas. And that course is available on Commons. So if you don't have it in your Canvas instance, you can just create a new blank course shell and import it from Commons. Just enroll yourself as a teacher, and then you can import it into that course. And same with Be the Hero, which is an admin focused course for people like the leaders that they were talking about. So it's quite high level, just learning how to use some of the admin functions inside of Canvas, the unpublished courses report and other reports that are available to admins to help them with their job.
Right. Is that all kind of automated within your SIS, and is it managed through your SIS, or?
Sorry?
Like just provisioning your users and new teachers and everything like that, enrolling them into a new course, and also, the sandbox course, and also the Growing with Canvas course. Is that like automatic?
No.
Sport.
The provision of the sandbox is, so when a new user is created, yes, that is. However, the enrollment into a course and all the instructor people can put their fingers in their ears. If I enroll someone into a live course, that's going to use up a license. So no, I haven't by default enrolled them into a particular course. No.
Okay. Is anyone using Canvas for other staff, PD, not just for Canvas training?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone want to elaborate on that at all?
So my role at one school is to look after the professional development of all our teachers. So, so every single professional learning they do is created in Canvas, whether it's delivered asynchronously or synchronously, face-to-face or in blended learning environments. And yeah, we've done that right from the beginning because they just learn so much about Canvas by experiencing it as a user. It also gives us a chance to model the teaching and learning framework that we use as well, that we expect our teachers to use. Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of Canvas training for our staff, so we have an induction program, a year-long induction program. Canvas is part of that. We've built all the training in a course, Canvas course, that covers all our other digital tools as well that our teachers use as well as Canvas. We have instructional coaches. We have digital leads in each state that go and do face-to-face and support on campus as well. We have things like digital newsletters that go out across the country once a month that's got like just little simple hacks and tips for stuff.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. You know, Canvas is, you know, there's always new updates every month to new features that are coming out and things like that. How do you keep your staff up to date with some of that kind of thing?
If we sent emails every month, they wouldn't read them, Paul. Like, if it's a meaningful change, you know, the staff will be aware of it. It will get some airtime. But just talking about like the professional learning, like, so we've got our staff like an information hub. So, you know, think of our new staff who come into the college. It's like part of that induction. It doesn't happen. Yes, it happens at the start of the year, but it also happens at week 7, term 2. You know, it's like that whole process is kind of ongoing. And so what I wanted to say is just understanding that the onboarding onto Canvas isn't an event, it's ongoing. And a lot of that is with you can't separate the knowing and doing. There's got to be doing, and that usually feeds the next the next lot of questions around the use of Canvas. But that's how we've changed up our tact. And we originally, like when I started the college at the beginning of the year, there was this onboarding course that was a doozy. It was so long, so much content, so academically minded, when it's a lot of that skill in the play was kind of missing. So that's part of our revamping. And look, we've only had an initial meeting with the teams, but we just want the mantra, don't bore us, get to the core. It's like, what do I need to know just to get up and running? Because we know that once we get up and running, then the questions will come. And that's the questioning is a good indicator of staff engagement with the platform. So yeah, that's I guess some of the learnings from our school.
Just on the back of what Chris said, a couple of little takeaways there, that their PL course where they house their professional learning also evolved to a staff portal, a hub. So yes, you could actually get in there and do your professional learning, but also you could also access key materials, key current materials, et cetera, for their work. They also did an amazing job in terms of developing it looks like a DNA. It looks like the DNA chain. And so there's no explicit Canvas activity. It could be a literacy activity that has a quiz inbuilt whereby there's automatic feedback and resubmissions and all those sorts of things. So because you've got to invent PL time, that's for sure. And they've done an incredible job in that regard. And from a diocesan point of view, we've actually just finished developing a professional learning course shell, a template, a blueprint, that'll get pushed out to each and every school, because we provide professional learning across the diocese, across all our learning teams using Canvas. And now what we're finding is schools are wanting a certain course, a certain module, a certain range of resources, and they mightn't, because they mightn't be a Canvas school just yet, they don't have anywhere to put it. So we had that many requests to say, oh, we need this copy of this course, or we need this module put somewhere. So we're actually going to release a new empty professional learning course that basically identifies all the key areas of a school's learning, and schools can import into there. And before you ask the question, Chris, no, it won't override your professional learning course. It'll be an additional one that'll just sit there for you to be used. So that's our most recent initiative.
The course looks great, Dave. And it's very similar to what we've got set up here as well. So looks good.
That's because I copied it off you, Chris.
Off Christina.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's great to hear that you're using Canvas and modeling from a pedagogical standpoint how you actually want to do things within the organization. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to this topic before we move on to the last one?
The only thing is, I find one of our things is that we want to be able to empower our staff to actually, any question they've got, there'll be an answer to. So actually just really helping them understand where they can get those answers, because as you said, there can be so many updates, so many changes. If we start creating all the collateral too, we have to go back and make all those changes too. So wherever possible, we're using Canvas training resources, because, why wouldn't you? And that also empowers the staff to actually, if they've got a question, they know where they can go to get the support they need as well.
Awesome. I'm glad you said what you said, Chris. It's, it's not a one and done type of thing with the training, because there's always going to be more, more to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That's why professional development, professional learning is ongoing. So incorporating that into everything else that you're doing is a great way of doing it. Is there anything else anyone wants to share?
I was just wondering, do other schools use the facility where they have an opportunity for teacher practitioners to share across their system about what they're doing, rather than just always top down sort of PD?
Caroline, that's been a point of contention at our school. I'm of the line of thinking that, like, for example, this year, staff have only been able to view their own courses. And so being able, and of course they can view the professional learning course, which should be the exemplar, but the reality is that when you're teaching students, we've got our surface deep transfer, taxonomy, we've got how our pages look. So we haven't afforded that this year. One line of thinking is, well, if staff have access to each other's courses, there's a chance that they'll pick up on poor practice, or they'll pick up on poor, working outside of protocols. The other line of thinking is, if we have visibility, then we can see great practice. And when I can see great practice of someone else who I identify as learning Canvas, and I can see them being successful, my efficacy's peaked, and I'm interested. And I know I've got someone else to ask around, how'd you do that? What does that look like in your space? So small steps. The next step is, with our 2023 course shells, staff of the same faculty will have visibility. So I think that's a massive win for us, because I think if we don't address that productive diversity, acknowledging that there isn't just this one who's amazing, there's a lot of leaders who have the ability to build capacity through that informal, professional learning's a time in the calendar, but it can happen when you ask your colleague. And I guess it's those short interactions that happen when there's 135 staff, like, to really further enable that. So we've been taking a few steps in that direction.
Yeah, so that's really interesting you're talking about that, because we're in the process of building a global library for us of what we're calling annotated courses. So not exemplars, but annotation of really good Canvas practice. We're fortunate we've got a global instance of Canvas that we can enrol all our staff across the globe in. So we're going to be creating this repository of these annotated resources so that staff can go in and have a look at what are some things that are good, and see some discussion around why that element's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've also sort of created like a series of videos where we've gone in and we've highlighted, as you're talking about, practices that are really good, and interviewed those teachers and had them talk about their Canvas course, screen share it, talk it through, and record it as a video that we've got for training purposes as well to share out.
Oh, nice. Did you notice, like, do you get any of the data? Like, are people watching those videos?
Yeah, we've just started pushing them out on our SharePoint site. So yeah, we can collect the data and see how many clicks, because we're doing it through our Panopto video. So we've got all the back end stats around it as well.
Yeah, I've been thinking of that too, and thinking, like, how do you make it super engaging?
Yeah.
To have a staff member retain their focus as well and retain their engagement
Yeah. They're just short instructional, 4 or 5 minutes. So we push them out. Staff might engage with them then, but then we can also draw back on them when we run more formal professional learning as well.
Very cool.
And you're right. It comes across a whole lot better when it's coming from peers rather than top down. It's much better received. Cool. So I imagine as far as giving people access to other courses, so being able to see other teachers' courses, it varies from school to school, but we do see this quite often, where you might create a more limited admin role in Canvas that is essentially read-only to be able to view courses. And you could start with just specific learning areas so that you can only see other courses from your learning area, but there are quite a few schools that actually open up so you can see all of the teaching courses for all the staff. So it's definitely a thing that happens that we actually have seen schools do. So maybe something to consider as well.
Again, sorry to launch these things on you, Chris, but I don't know if you've seen a little search menu appear on your Canvas environment today. So we just recently purchased Atomic Jolt, which provides a search engine across our environment. So if you have rights to whatever courses, that search engine will bring up every hit of every item, every page, every course that uses those particular terms. So in terms of accessibility, that'll certainly increase. And the other thing that we provide is we've got an account-wide role, which I call Exec View, which is basically tailored for principals. And it is, you can look, but you can't touch. So principals like that because they like to be able to access any student learning, any course development. If someone sends them the link and say, look at this, how great is this, and whatever, and they really like it. And that exec view role has now been adopted for casuals, for prackies, for diverse learning teams. And now with the search engine, people go, oh, I'm going to throw everyone into exec view because then they can see everything within their in their school. My next cab off the rank is how do we bust down those walls between our schools and actually get some cross-pollination there. So but very, very exciting.
So Dave, that actually segues nicely into the next thing we're going to talk about. You mentioned prackies. So internship and prac teachers, so people who are finishing up their university studies to become a teacher and coming into the school. How do you cater for them? So you've already partly answered that. My wife is just finishing up her internship, final year of her final semester of her master's in teaching. So it's quite pertinent subject to me personally. But do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so best way so we allow external users into our Canvas environment, right? So by default, we use the Google authentication, and that's garden variety for staff and for students. But if we've got any external contractors, any parents, and any prackies that don't have CEDP credentials, we allow them to log in via alternate page. So this is so widely used that when a user puts in the URL, canvas.para.catholic.edu.au, they actually go to a redirect page, which is a web page that basically says, who are you? Are you a CDP person? Click on this button. Are you a non-CDP person? Click on this button. And then basically from there, the schools are empowered to enroll their prac students where they need. And whenever we create an external account, we just keep a log of those, and we've got expiry dates on them. And when they expire, we just simply conclude that particular account. Obviously, we never delete anything in case we've got to come back to it. And yeah, that just works.
Cool. Anyone do a similar process or different to that?
Yeah, well, my old school, we used to do something very similar where, especially those fourth year prackies that essentially have the class, we really need to give them full access. They're teaching the class. So yeah, we just had generic, I can't remember exactly how we did it, but essentially we gave them almost full access to Canvas. They didn't have access to all the rest of our SIS and all those things, but because they were creating the courses, we just gave them full access.
I suppose in that instance, you're relying on their supervisor to make sure that they're all up to speed. And well, actually, that's a good question. How do you get them up to speed with using Canvas? You just
a lot of them are doing it in uni, like they're students at uni using Canvas, many of them. So they knew the student view. So now they just, there's some of these kids coming through kids, I should say, these prackies coming
my wife's
through.
Not a kid.
But they just, many of them, they just know it. It's so they just pick it up so easily.
That's true. Yeah, there are a number of unis using Canvas, and my wife is studying at University of Sydney, and they use Canvas, and so that's definitely helpful. She is also lucky she has a Canvas resource at home, so that's also helpful. Carolyn, what do you guys do on that front?
Yeah, we do a similar thing. So we actually have a formal policy, and I can't remember the exact details of it, but based on the length that the person's going to be with us. So it's not just prackies, it's also long-term leave replacements, anything that's, I think, more than 2 weeks, I think it is. So it rules out those casuals that just pop in and out. But if they're on a longer term contract, they're part of that. The head of department has to request that they're created a user, they get a user account, they get enrolled in the Canvas courses that they need access to. Most of them would be inheriting courses that are already built, so they wouldn't actually have to be designing in Canvas, but they would certainly be using the features to deliver their lessons and be involved in the marking, the assessment, feedback. So they'd have to get it across speed grader probably, but their supervising teacher would take them through how to do that.
Yeah,
it's incredible that your teachers get to start work and then say, here are the courses that you'll be teaching. Because I think that's been the biggest load on our professional learning. It's like, not how do you use Canvas as a tool to enhance pedagogy, whether it be content or actual students engaging in learning. A lot of the learning has been, how do you not only write the course, but build the course? So it's, it's a wonderful place that your school's in. Many people on this call are like essentially the projects or the courses already kind of mapped across the curriculum that you provide within your schools, or is it is there constant rewriting, or are you at that kind of near mature level where you're just refining courses and then rolling over?
We're at early stages, so we're not really refining. There's a lot of copy paste at the moment, but it's on the goal for next year is to really get those refined and templating tools. So I know a lot of you using City Labs. I really want to push that through next year and hope a bunch of those things to really get our courses looking a lot better.
We've just gone through a massive redo of our whole K-6 curriculum. We've taught all 7 grades and produced new content within the last 2 years. And so that will be the same content for 2023. and then we're going to spend 2023 updating English. We don't want to just redo what we've already done and make it look different. We've actually taken some feedback, and we want to take our courses to the next level, which is why we're now going to drop into a cycle of working a year ahead to improve each KLA from K to 6.
That's awesome. So I think the last bit we wanted to do is just, any Q&A for each other and sharing that you want to do with what you're doing with Canvas, or anything else that's come up along the way, or even just that hasn't come up along the way during today.
Can I throw a question now? Oh, sorry, Dave.
I was really interested to be on this call and hear from someone who has been using the elementary Canvas and how they found that journey and how they supported it. I am starting to get more and more inquiries from that sphere, and it's not something that I have a comprehensive resource set for.
Yeah, is there anyone on the call who's using it yet?
I used it in my old school. It looks really nice. The skin, it's got that real junior school, primary school look and feel. I need to have it in front of me to really remember exactly what I loved about it. There were a few things it took some time to get your head around. The layout was a bit different, but it certainly got that nicer look and feel that a junior school would want in an LMS compared to senior school in universities.
Well, interestingly, we have had some senior schools and universities say that they would love to turn it on for their particular school or university, if it weren't for the junior fund, because it does simplify the navigation for the students. Just keeps it a little bit more focused. But we do have a number of schools who use Canvas for Elementary. I'm not sure I don't think we have anyone on today, but we did actually run a user group where schools were talking about that. I think it was around May this year, Rio.
I think
that
so.
right?
Yeah.
So we can probably look that up and put a link to that on the chat there. But we did run a session on that. There's definitely schools in both Sydney and Victoria or Sydney and Melbourne that we're aware of that are doing some really cool stuff with Canvas for Elementary. And one of those Sydney schools is actually considering rolling out to their senior school next year. Quite interestingly. So for those who aren't aware, it does simplify, it changes the layout of the screen for courses, so you can follow through and focus on what you need to do for that day, and you can click through the modules. It's probably easier if we shared screens on that, but just cognizant of the time. But there we go. We've got the link there. It was April this year. I was close. Where we actually had a specific user group session where schools were sharing what they're doing in Canvas for Elementary. I think it was Carey Baptist and Barker were sharing on that one. Yeah,
That's right.
So Barker's in Sydney and Carey's in Melbourne. So they're doing some really awesome stuff with that. Anything else anyone wanted to chat about whilst we're all together?
Has anyone gone down the mastery pathway?
Yes.
I've done one PD with Paul.
Yeah, I have. And everyone I work with turns it off. Because
I think I've lost contact.
I think we've lost Dave.
in the come on. Am I back? No.
Yeah, you're back.
You're back, Dave.
Just your audio.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so people turn it off because in their face-to-face working with children, that if a student doesn't keep up and doesn't complete the task and therefore they're locked out, and then, yeah, so the teachers that I've worked with, in principle, it's absolutely fantastic and it should be exactly what you should be using. But in a face-to-face setting, they've turned it off. So the only place I've used those mastery paths are in strictly online courses. Yeah, it's great. It just works. It just doesn't work if you've got 5 students that just simply refuse not to. And then they sit there and they go, well, I can't do anything. And you're trying to get on with everyone else. So the truest of differentiation within the classroom, yeah, probably leads to a teacher just simply turning it off.
It's interesting, Dave. I wouldn't say we've got widespread use of it, but we certainly have got some teachers that use it very, very effectively. And it works really well with our framework, where we want to try and help students be a little bit more self-directed, and they actually have time to. It really certainly does help those students. They'll be working at different paces and at different times, and so it's great that they can't move on to the next thing. We've got a language teacher who uses it brilliant, all the time with her classes, yeah. But it's not consistently used, and it's certainly a focus that we want to look at for training moving forward, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because you do need to have all your content in the course before you can start setting up those pathways. So it's definitely not something you would start out with, and would recommend not starting with mastery paths when you're first starting with Canvas. But yeah, once you're all up and running, you've got all your course content in there. It is something you can look at. Yeah, but definitely not when you're just starting.
I was gonna
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say we are currently doing some, I guess, discovery on adaptive learning. So the ability to be able to share pages to specific sections, because that's, I think that'll kind of fill the void of what you're trying to do, but not be constrained to what mastery paths kind of offer. So that is something that we're currently looking at the moment. So thought I'd just share that.
Carolyn or Joanne, are you exploring capabilities at all in your learning contexts with your younger students?
Sorry, you might have to elaborate for me what you mean a little bit more.
So like within your schools, do you have a specific set of skills? It could be, obviously similar to the general capabilities, unless it is the general capabilities.
Yeah.
Where you say, this skill of communication or...
I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually have started to develop a bit of a continuum for Canvas use for our primary students. So a learning continuum about the skills that we would want them to have. We're not attaching it to a year group because it is a continuum. And using that in terms of preparing them for their Canvas use in secondary as well. Yeah.
How did you go about the development of that? Was it pretty much, we kind of know what learning looks like at One School Global and get staff to kind of say, this is what we want our students to be able to?
This one's specifically related to Canvas skills, really. It's not around the framework. The framework's sort of quite bedded down. But in terms of the skill, we just identified different people from the different regions around the world. There's a lot of material out there in terms of that sort of thing. We just sort of looked at that. Or the Canvas guides gave some really good structure around, the different elements you can do and what sort of potential pathway. Yeah, we've kept it really simple. It's mainly, it's for the teachers, but it's also for the students as well. So the teachers have it up in their classrooms and they make it sort of visible, by the end of primary, this is where we would want you to be. And students reflect on where they are now and what the next things they need to learn and develop are. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we're looking at digital literacy of one of our capability frameworks, and that's part of an agenda next year to get really precise around, because from K to 12, it's stage 3, it's, Canvas Elementary. Prior to that, it's 1-to-2 ratio of iPads using Seesaw. Then it's, Canvas Elementary, and then it's 1-to-1 Mac. Yeah, so we're in that place where as we evolve, we want to be really precise in what's the skills for each of our schools. So, cheers. Thank you.
All right. Well, unless there's nothing else, we're very close to time on the user group. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating today. Really, really appreciate it. There's always some great things that we learn from these user sessions, and I know that I've learned a couple of things from stuff that you've talked about today, and just the way that you're doing things. It's great for people to see that there's not just one way that things can happen, and you know, it can be really effective depending on your organization and your culture and the way that you do things. And thankfully, Canvas seems to be able to cater for lots of different scenarios. So thanks again, everyone. We'll leave it here, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.